Well, Gary, a lot to get through, but first of all, just your reaction to that one out there, Whitby Town 0, Bamber Bridge 2 this afternoon.
Yeah, obviously, coming back to the tour bar after a couple of victories in our last couple of games, we were hoping to obviously gather the momentum and continue the decent run that we've been on. But no, I think overall, if I'm taking the whole game out of the equation, I think at that first 20 minutes or so, half an hour, we were probably not as energetic or as good ultimately as what we've been over the last couple of games. And I've pre-match I've gone with the same team, which they really deserve to do after the last couple of performances. And whether that played a part in the energy levels, with it being a third game this week. Obviously we've played Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, and no, obviously you come into the later stage of that first half being 1-0 down, and a lot of stuff's happened within that last 15, 20, 25 minutes of that first half, which you can look at as a bit strange, really, is the word I think that I'm looking for in terms of the decisions that were made on the referee's part. But no, I think it's just one of those games really where we've just sort of got to swipe it under the carpet a little bit. I won't let it spoil what's been a really good week this week. I think the circumstances around the game probably warrant that, and the lads deserve that. They've absolutely worked the socks off in that second half to get something out of the game, which is always difficult to give them that hope, and especially coming in at half time 1-0 down, to give them that hope that they can actually still grab something from the game is sometimes hard to do. But they've worked the socks off there, and I think until they've scored in the 83rd minute or whatever it was, I think there was only one team looking to get something out of the game in that second half especially, and a couple of chances within that first 15 minutes of the second half, which when you are a man less, you're probably looking to take a couple of good saves from the goalkeeper. But as I said, we'll dust it off, and there's a few obviously walking wounded in there at the moment, but we'll go again, and as I said, we'll swipe it under the carpet and look to go again next weekend.
Yeah, we'll come on to a few of those decisions shortly, but just in terms of the match before, before it sort of turned with the red card and a few decisions going against Whitby, it did feel that the performance perhaps just lacking that sort of energy other than that attempt from later Watts early on.
Yeah, and maybe that's, it's in hindsight, isn't it? Should I have changed a couple of personnel? But I think it's hard when you're on the back of a couple of wins and confidence is as high as it was. And the confidence hasn't been dented there. The lads are still upbeat. But to go 3 games in a week in any league, especially in the rigours of the Northern Premier League, is tough. And as you said, the energy levels weren't quite there in that opening half probably. No, they probably got a deserved goal to put them ahead.
Yeah, and then just shortly after that is when the game sort of turned a bit. I think probably lack of control from the referee. Probably say there. Frankie Whelan obviously come off with a massive bandage on his head. Looks like he was caught there with an arm, and then a few minutes later he gets sent off for a tackle. But again, if that doesn't come about, if a decision goes Charles' way at the other end. Yeah,
I think I think ultimately he's give the wrong players the wrong colour card. If I'm being honest, I think the lad's caught Frankie. I think you can't be jumping for headers and have your elbows flailing around. And when you see the gash along Frankie's forehead, it's a nasty gash, and ultimately that only comes around from a nasty whack of an elbow. So the referee said it was accidental. Whether it was or not, only the player will know. But I think Frankie's, and the referees probably give Frankie's sending off as thinking it's sort of a reaction to that elbow, with it being so soon after. But I think Frankie's is a yellow card. I think the ball down the line to the lad is just being nicked by the lad, and Frankie's gone for a challenge to try and win the ball, and it's just a bit late. So any other is fair, it's probably very similar to a yellow card that Frankie got on Tuesday, and a lot of people have told me that, but the referee's probably taken it as a little bit of a revenge swipe, if you like. But that certainly wasn't the case, and as I said, a few of the decisions, not just in the first half, but I think throughout the game, were very dubious today.
Yeah, and it's disappointing as well, just losing Frankie for 3 games now, but Lewis Hawkins going off with an injury just before that. Was that more precautionary than anything at this stage?
We don't know. He sort of came over and showed us, said his knee's a little bit sore. Yeah, we're hoping it's precautionary, but his knee's pretty big in there. It's pretty swollen. He doesn't quite know how it's happened, whether it be coming from a block tackle or whether it come from a twist. We're not quite sure, but yeah, been a little bit in the walls today. We had Ronnie McGrath drop out in the warm up as well with a knee injury. So no, a little bit walking wounded. And as I said, the good thing is now is that we've got a full week to see who's right and see who's ready for next weekend.
Yeah, and then just at the start of the second half as well, unfortunately another refereeing decision we're going to have to discuss, but Adam Gell going down, big shout for a penalty there, and it kind of feels like one of those, if it's not going to be a foul for the penalty, then why is it not booked him for diving there? That's
exactly what we put to the linesman and put to the referee, but they don't talk to you these days. You can shout all you want, and there's no manners to it, and they don't even acknowledge you, so it's difficult to talk about. And like Gelly's one, it's there was plenty of bodies in between us and the incident, but I think the way he's gone down and when he's come off, he said it was a definite foul, and so it's difficult. And when you are a man less and fighting to get something out of the game, those are the decisions where you need the referee to get right. And as I said, it wasn't on our part or what we feel. It certainly wasn't the first one that he got wrong on the day.
No, and I suppose now the blessing is, like you said, that we've got a full week now to prepare, and hopefully that'll be the case for the next few weeks as well, which gives you plenty of time to rest up and regroup for what's going to be a big game against Russia Olympic at home next week.
Yeah, normally I'd say I'd want it as soon as possible, and I'd want it on Tuesday, but no, we're thankful for the week now, and as I said, we'll see who's right and see who's ready. The Hawksy one is a concern for me with it being so innocuous and so out the blue. I think that's a strange injury to get, but the size of his knee is really concerning for me. Ronnie looks like I want to say not it's probably a nasty one, to be honest. It's something he's had niggles with before, and no, I've got all my fingers crossed that's not too serious. Nelson's got a nasty gash across his hand, but that'll be fine, I'd imagine. And so, as I said, we are a little bit walking wounded, and hopefully, they're not as serious as I've just made out. But no, we'll see.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.